Hey everyone, my name is Mia. I am from Atlanta, Georgia, and I have been a crafter since I was just a little tot, I guess you could say. My grandma taught me to crochet when I was pretty small, probably around 5 or 6. And back then I used to make little, pot holders and scarves, but I really didn't get back into it until a couple of years ago. I decided that I wanted to start crafting again, and now suddenly I have a wall of yarn that looks like this. So I decided to again kind of start crocheting a couple of years ago, and since then I've really kind of grown my skills and learned a lot of really cool new things. So I wanted to bring some of that knowledge here to this YouTube channel. As I've been crocheting, I've learned a lot I've heard a lot from other people that they really want to crochet, but they find that it's really, really difficult. They can't get their projects to turn out quite right, or things just don't go the way that they planned. So I wanted to really start this channel to kind of talk through some of those problems you may come up against, walk you through some of the basics of crochet, and just kind of help you through your journey. So today I wanted to start off with actually just a really quick basic video of some of the items that you'll need when you want to first start crocheting. I think that sometimes you can go into the craft store and there's just so much going on. You can't really figure out, where to start, what to get, what to buy, anything like that. So that's really where I wanted to start today. One of the first things that you'll need, obviously, is some yarn. So for beginners, I would definitely recommend getting an acrylic yarn. So this one is from the brand Big Twist. This is the Joann's brand yarn. Their value yarn is usually only, I think, like $3 for a skein this size. This is a skein of yarn. So, okay. So if you get a skein like this, you can definitely make quite a few things, do a lot of trial and error, and it won't cost you that much money. So definitely either check out this. This is a acrylic yarn. I think it's 100% acrylic. Yeah, 100% acrylic. So definitely try out one of those. You could also get a cotton yarn. So this brand Lily makes this sugar and cream yarn, and this is a really great one to start off with. I wouldn't get like a multicolored one, just get a plain solid, something like blue or dark red or something, so you can easily see the stitches. But either cotton or acrylic is definitely the best way to go when you're a beginner. These usually don't split all that much, so as you're going through, it's a little bit easier to start the project without additional problems and worries. Okay, so let's get into kind of what we have in our little crochet box. These are some of the must-have items I think you should get when you want to start crocheting. You definitely don't need to get all of them, and I'll kind of let you know throughout the video as I'm talking about each one, whether it's a must-have or a really nice to have, or a you don't need this at all, but it's something cool. So I got this little box probably, I think, from Hobby Lobby or something, just for a few dollars, but you can put your things in whatever little area or whatever little box you want to. But I definitely like having something that I can easily transport all of my supplies in. If I lose this box, I definitely go a little crazy because it has everything I need in it. So if I lost this box, I would be really sad. But thankfully, a lot of the items in here are not going to be very expensive. So it's not, too expensive of a hobby to really get into if you want to learn and dabble in it. Without making a full commitment. I would say you could probably start crocheting with like a ball of yarn and a couple of these supplies for less than $20. Okay, it's not your time. One of the very first things, the most important thing, is having a good crochet hook. So there's quite a few different kinds of crochet hooks. The first ones, these ones are really teeny tiny, but just like a full metal crochet hook. You can usually get these for the cheapest at a craft store. These are definitely a good, buy if you want to get something cheap, again, just to try out crochet. But they definitely aren't the most comfortable to use. So I would definitely invest in some better hooks if you want something that's going to be more comfortable. Even the nicer hooks that I'm going to show you aren't too expensive. But yeah, these you can probably get for a couple of dollars. These are great for really small yarns, especially if you wanted to do like something with embroidery floss, or I've seen a lot of people using really thin threads. These ones work really great for that. The next one is kind of your standard hook. So it's a metal hook with a rubber grippy. There's quite a lot of vendors that make these kinds of hooks. I personally used these for a really long time until I found the hooks that I currently use, but these ones are, a great first starter. And when you first start, I would definitely get one that, oh my... When you first start, I would definitely get a hook that is just compatible with the yarn that you're going to practice on. So on the back of the yarn, I'll show you on this one, it has these little symbols. So you'll see right here, it says that you're going to use a USH or a 5mm hook. So just check on your yarn to see what size hook you need, and then, buy that size hook if you're a beginner. The last couple hooks, so I actually really like these PYRM hooks, Purim. These are actually plastic. I have had one break on me, but I've only had one, and I was honestly using the wrong yarn with it, so it broke, but I haven't had any other problems with these ones. I really like them. They're really smooth. The yarn flows on them really nicely, and they have this ergonomic handle, so they're pretty comfortable to use. Once you begin crocheting, definitely make sure you're doing your little wrist stretches. Make sure you're taking breaks, because you can definitely do some damage to your wrists if you crochet a lot. But getting hooks like these with the ergonomic handles, or putting a tennis ball, like if you wanted to put a tennis ball in one of these little ones, I've seen people do that. That can definitely help save your wrists. So definitely do that. So that's the most important thing, getting a good hook. But again, if you want to do this, don't want to spend a ton of money, just get one of these metal hooks. It will definitely work for just trying to figure out how to do stitches, and you can always upgrade once you buy some, once you get used to crocheting and decide you want to continue with it. Even these ones, I think like the bigger hooks are maybe closer to $10 each. The smaller ones are somewhere between like 5 and 10, if I remember right, but they also sell these in packs, and that's definitely the most cost-effective way to do it. So check out Amazon or one of the craft stores to see if they have the packs, because that's definitely the most economical way to go about it if you decide you want to invest in really nice hooks. I wouldn't even say these are like really nice. But I really like them, so I think they're really nice, but I'm sure someone will tell me that these are not really nice. So next thing that I think is a must-have in your crochet toolbox is a nice pair of scissors. I got these ones just from Hobby Lobby, I think. They are just small, they fit in my case, they're easy to use, they cut yarn really nicely. So just get yourself a small pair of scissors. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but just a small little pair of scissors. It will definitely come in handy, and it's nice to not have to carry around like a full pair of scissors or look for your big scissors every time you have to cut something. So I actually have this other little pair of scissors in my box. You don't have to have two, but I had this other pair in my box for when I'm traveling on a plane, because I really like these scissors and they're much nicer, and I don't want the TSA to steal them. So I do have a pair of scissors that I don't really care if they ended up confiscating them or something. They definitely aren't as nice. They don't cut as well, but they'll do the job if I'm on a plane and I can't, you know, have my other nice, cute little scissors. So. All right, the next thing that is definitely a must-have is some little needles. I actually have these really tiny, just regular pointy sewing needles, so just the really thin ones that you would use for regular thread. I use these to actually help sew together some of my chenille yarn projects or my Bernat blanket projects, because the fluffy yarn is oftentimes really hard to sew with if you need to attach different pieces together, especially the Sweet Snuggles Light from Michaels. That's like the bane of my existence, using that yarn when I have to sew it together. So definitely you can use just, you know, these tiny little needles with some regular thread, and most of the time you can't even see it on the project. Like, you can obviously get thread that will match the yarn color, but sometimes I use white on black and you honestly don't even see it because the yarn is so fluffy anyway. So definitely something that you can do, and definitely something I suggest. But I always have like 3 little ones, and then I have a couple of larger ones as well, a couple of different sizes, but you can see these ones are definitely like a thicker needle. I use these to sew together granny squares or other parts of the project. I do use these if I am going to sew with my Bernat blanket or chenille yarn. These work great. So these are called tapestry needles usually, and then these again are just kind of like a regular sewing needle. The next thing that's kind of sewing tangential, I haven't been doing need to have, nice to have. I would say everything that we've gone through thus far is like a need to have. So you need your crochet hooks, you need scissors, and the needles are also usually a need. So I would say out of the needles though, probably the thicker tapestry needles is a need. The smaller ones are like a nice to have. My next item that is a nice to have is some of these little sewing pins that have the little heads on them. I use these all the time when I'm making amigurumi projects and I need to attach like the ears on the project or the nose, the arms. I use those to kind of hold them in place so that I can make sure that everything looks symmetrical and is nice, and then also the, you know, different appendages onto the project. So these are definitely a nice to have if you're going to do amigurumi. If you're going to do other projects like blankets, scarves, hats, like you definitely don't need these. So kind of just depends on the project, but for amigurumi projects where you're going to be attaching things, these are definitely a close to need to have, but more on the nice to have side. All right, another kind of nice to have, definitely not a need to have, but a nice to have, are these little row counters. I use these a lot when I'm working on blankets, and usually blankets or sweaters or something like that, where I have to count a ton of rows. These are really nice. You can just, you know, tick the little thing up every time you finish a row. That way you can keep track of where you're at. Obviously, you know, they can get bumped, so it is a good extra assistance, but I'll show you maybe in a future video how you can count the different rows on your project visually, so that you don't necessarily need to rely on these. But when I was first starting, I used these all the time, because once you get into the projects that are really like a lot going on, it's nice to have something to help you keep track. I also have used, there's an app on the phone that's a row counter. I'll try to include a little photo or something up here. But basically you can just tap every time you finish a row. That one I found to be a little bit harder because it does kind of you know, if you accidentally tap, it moves. They also have that same app available on the Apple Watch. So, you know, if you're crocheting, you can easily tap, tap, tap every time you finish a row. I also use my iPad. So I download every single one of the patterns that I use as a PDF and put it in Notability on my iPad. As I finish the rows, I check them off. I make little tally marks. I basically write up, I write all over the pattern to make sure I know where I am or if I changed anything. Sometimes I'll make little tweaks to patterns just to make it look better, in my opinion. But you can definitely just mark it all up and, you know, make little tallies, like I said, which is what I do predominantly now, especially if I'm working on a much bigger project. We have 2 more things left. So my next little nice to have, again, not really even needed per se. I do keep a seam ripper in my box, mostly because I just like to know where this is when I'm doing other non-crochet sewing projects. But sometimes if you have to frog a work, so if you have to pull everything out, this can sometimes help you like get it started. So nice to have, but definitely don't need it. And then the last thing I have here are stitch markers. So these little things are going to be a lifesaver for you. I bought a pack of probably like 100 of these back when I first started, and I haven't run out. I do occasionally like accidentally vacuum them up or drop them, but I have 100. I don't need 100, but I have probably 100 of them. So these are great to mark different areas of your project, especially if you need to attach something into a specific stitch for amigurumi, if you want to mark the first stitch of a round, if you want to mark out the ends of your rows, if you're doing you know, back and forth row crochet. These are really, really great. I also use it for a lot of my color block work. So if I'm making a big tapestry or a sweater or something and the work only goes within a certain section, I'll use these to help mark that off. So actually, I'm currently making a sweater, and the actual, like, you know, pattern that I was using only comes like in this little square area. So as I was going through and doing the different color work, I marked off the start and end of the color graph on my work, so that I knew everything to either side of it was just going to be plain, and then I could start my counting if I had to count in to do little parts of the color work. So that's that. All right, so yeah, so definitely get some stitch markers. These are like a must need to have. Like if there is anything outside of, I would say, the crochet hooks and the scissors, these are a must have. They're really, really helpful when you start learning. I know some people that even mark off every single stitch when they're first starting, just so they can easily know where they have to put their hook back in. It definitely will add time, but it can definitely help get you more familiar with where your stitches are, what they should look like, and where you should put your hook back in. So definitely try that if you have some problems with losing stitches or adding too many. Those can really be a big help. And then, like I said, I think I got, if I didn't say this before, I got this little box, I think just from Hobby Lobby or something. It was only a few dollars, but it's a good size just to hold all of my little things that I just showed you, so that I can easily transport them between my home and in the car, and when I'm traveling, and when I go over to a friend's house, and all those kinds of things. I take my crochet stuff everywhere, so I like to keep everything just in this little box. And you know, I don't keep all my crochet hooks in there, just the ones that I'm maybe currently using for a project, but I have way too many to all fit in here, so I just use the ones that I'm currently using, or my favorites that I use for almost everything. So that's basically it for all of the things that you really need to have once you first start crocheting. So definitely get yourself some acrylic or cotton yarn, get yourself a crochet hook, and just get to work. I'll do another couple of videos. I want to do a video series that really highlights how to go about doing some of the basic stitches. So how you chain stitch, how you single crochet, double crochet, half double crochet, all of those things, so that you can really kind of get down the basics and then start reading patterns and doing some really fun, cool stuff. So like I said, I really want to make crochet accessible to everyone. I want to make sure that people can easily understand the concepts and easily kind of understand how to do it. It's definitely a little bit hard to pick up, and I think, you know, I do have a little bit of a warped idea of how easy it is just because I've been doing it for so long. But I think it's definitely something that everyone can do, and it has really actually good health benefits. Like, it can help reduce your anxiety and depression, and it's something that can really help keep you busy. I know a lot of ADHD crafters that love crocheting, so, you know, definitely a good thing to help with your mental health if you're looking for something to do this winter while it's still a little bit cold and chilly outside. So anyways, thanks so much. I hope this video was helpful. I hope that you found a new little tool that you should keep in your toolbox. And like I said, you know, these are just some of the basic things that you might need to get started. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I am a little new YouTube channel, so I would love to you know, have you on my journey with me. So definitely like and subscribe. Have a good rest of your day. Say bye. Say bye.